We're live.
Got about 1 more minute. I think everyone's on Teams. Let me see here.
All right. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, Gary.
Awesome. We're live. We're just waiting on one more, and I just resent her the link.
Awesome.
So welcome. Happy Saturday. I'm excited.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Let's do it.
Good day.
Yeah.
Good day.
So
Nice to
it
meet
is.
you.
It's a good day.
Well, haven't met. How do you pronounce your name?
Oh,
Sorry.
So mine, Svetlana.
Saban, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, Svetlana. Hey, Henry. What's up, Brandon?
Hey,
What's up,
what's
Q?
up?
Yeah.
What's up, Q?
Hey, Henry.
Hey.
So we'll give Charity a couple
Ronnie.
minutes just to get in because I just sent her the link. And then once she does, we'll go over our quick intro so we can get started. Thanks for giving up your hour on your Saturday, though, guys.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do this.
I'm excited. Svetlana, I love your background.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's very zen.
I need a mic like that.
And she does have the professional mic. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Brandon, it looks like you had some good ink in the is it the Detroit Free Press this week? Did I see that?
Yeah, I was in the online and Sunday paper last week, and I'll be on CBS tomorrow morning. Actually, if you guys want to get up and check it out, they'll put it online too. But,
Cool. That's great, man.
I'll check that out.
Congratulations.
Congrats, man.
Awesome.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
No big deal. Just CBS.
That's all. Something light, you know.
That's great.
Awesome.
I just hope that kind of coverage doesn't morph into, like they tend to sit on the ethical questions, which are fine, but it's like don't major in the minor, So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think as we head, my fear is that's where it's going to go, but it's an easier headline.
So Henry, you have some new stuff too, because you just did a couple speaking engagements, right?
Well, that, and we unveiled our big LLMs this week, and we got lucky because when BASF, they're the largest chemical company in the world, so when they signed up, I mean, we got a lot of attention on that, and they already signed up for next semester. So they took all the kids on the team as interns. So that's going to really be interesting because I think that chem industry is kind of tail wagging the dog. So I think all of them will probably poke their heads up and get some interest. So we'll see.
And Svetlana, you
Yeah.
have some new stuff going on too, right? Because I know
Oh,
that
there's
you were
always
just traveling.
Yeah, she's always got stuff.
there's
You're always
always
on.
something. Yeah, I'm presenting one of my projects that we've deployed for a little bit of time, but I'm leading to American Telemedicine Association conference today, so I'll be presenting my work at that conference. So it's exciting.
Congrats.
Nice. Good luck.
Thank you.
Where's
Well,
that? Laura? Where are you going?
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Cool.
I haven't spent much time in Phoenix. We've been to Scottsdale.
Fun city.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Not in the summer.
So
Not so much. In
no,
the summer.
what does it get to? The temperature there?
Like 115.
It's nice and hot.
And then they love to say, but it's a dry heat. I'm like, yeah, 115 is 115.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's pretty hot here in South Texas.
Yeah, it's true. And humid.
And
That's
humid,
true.
yeah.
Very.
Well, do you
So,
want
I
to
did-
start, Tiff, and see if she
yeah, I'm
joins,
gonna
or
get
just-
started just because I don't see her on yet, but I know that she's joining. So we'll get
Okay.
started. Welcome to our very first roundtable. My name is Change Dr. Tiff, and my co-host is Q. We are actually the founders of Edwards Consulting Group. I am a human resource and social change leader, and Q is an executive talent leader and also in the healthcare space. And we have with us Brandon Cooper, the machine man, who is the co-founder of AFID. Welcome, Brandon. And we also have Henry Hayes, who is an LSU AI instructor, and he is also the founder of Disrupt Ready. And we also have Svetlana, and I don't want to mess up your last name, Svetlana.
Makarova, you're good.
Makarova. She is a LinkedIn top AI voice and also the founder of Spark Change. And Charity McDonald is also joining us. She's a LinkedIn top executive coaching voice and also the founder of Crown Institute, LLC. So I just want to go ahead and get started. I will let Q start us off, and then we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro, Tiffany. Kind of want to start with just kind of questions and have an open dialogue about them. So I wanted to ask, Brandon, could you maybe provide an overview of your work and what you do in AI and how it intersects with the future of the workplace?
Certainly. Firstly, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Glad to share this space with you all. As she mentioned, and then you mentioned, my name is Brandon Cooper. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AFID. What we've ultimately created is an AI network that allows digital bots to work on behalf of humans so they don't have to work 40 hours a week. Imagine 20 versions of yourself, almost like your digital clone, being able to be in 10 different spots, 15 different spots at a time to earn money and save time. So that's what we built as a company, and we've been really excited about what we built.
And this is a question for anybody. What industries would you say are most susceptible to job displacement due to AI implementation? And also, as a two-part question, what measures are being taken to mitigate that displacement?
I'll jump in. I think, Tiff, I would challenge the way you asked your question. Here's why. It's a visceral question, and everyone wants that answer, but I think it begs the mindset. Meaning, I think to step into this and really take advantage, and that's the key piece, right? Because what I see is this is the great disruptor of our time. Meaning, if you have a company of 5, you can make it look like 500 done right. But that does not happen unless you have the proper mindset. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I think everyone needs to get, if you're non-technically educated about what is this, what can and can't it do, how does it work, where does it come from, and that's not hard to do. There's a lot of resources for that. Because once you have that education, then I think the right kind of question, or the way I look at your question is, which people with the AI in their hands will be kind of changing work. So like Brandon, for example, he walked you through a minute ago. They have what are a lot of niche AI agents that are going to be doing tasks on behalf of humans. That's a great idea, and that's something that I would hazard a guess. I don't know Brandon's work, but I would hazard a guess that most of those tasks, those people don't like to do anyway. So I think that, but see, that's a mindset shift, because people will say, well, yeah, that's what I want. To me, I always use the metaphor of the camera on our iPhones. When banks decided that, hey, you could take a picture of that check, and Quentin doesn't need to get in his car, drive to the bank, sign the check, put it in the vacuum tube, wait, and drive home. When he did it for the first time, he was like, wow, I'll never do that like that again. And so I think we're still a little early, but I think if we think of it like, where does this augment what I do, and either professionally or personally or both? That's a different mindset than saying, what's the AI sword over my neck that's going to put me out of a job? And I'm not saying that your question is wrong. I'm just saying I think we all have to kind of a gotcha space in our heads to say, when it reaches X, that's when I'm out. That's when I knew this was too fast, or there's 6 fingers in that llama drawing. Anyway, so I think it's more of a mindset question.
Yeah. I think, Tiff, it's really, you would think manufacturing jobs would most likely be first, just be like if folding boxes and like doing like a lot of the packaging. Like BMW is doing a lot on the manufacturing, working with like OpenAI and different companies. So that's already been in place. Boston Dynamics is one of the companies in the United States that has been spearheading a lot of the robots and training the machine learning models so the robots move like humans. So it's going to start with manufacturing. 20 million jobs are going to be affected within the next decade through manufacturing. So, and now we're going to talk about a lot more on this call about like what job displacement and how jobs are going to move. So I won't talk about that too much, but that's going to be first. The safest job on the planet in terms of automation concerns is sports. No one wants to watch a robotic LeBron James or a robotic Tom Brady or football.
It might be a little dangerous too.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just
I'll add maybe a difference. So I don't know. I think I would disagree maybe with Brandon a little bit that manufacturing is first, and I'll tell you why. Just because of the boom of generative AI and how much adoption we're seeing, and it's much faster than any other technology. So when you're talking about automation and and the types of algorithms or the types of AI systems that are implementing in manufacturing take a really long time to actually deploy into production. So if you're talking about short term, I think that we're going to see much bigger adoption in generative AI, like where there are applications of and use cases that are vast. So things like financial services, you have media, communications, retail, technology. Those are easier sectors to implement generative AI. In my experience, actually implementing these systems and actually deploying them across enterprises, to maybe many people's surprise, I would say like out of all the implementations I've overseen, generative AI is the simplest because you're using foundational models. These are out of the box models that you can deploy, but the use cases are so huge. And if you could see, well, where are we seeing adoption currently? Just kind of observing in the last year, the generative AI just took a boom. We're seeing marketing and sales. Like those are the two different sectors across different industries. So I think maybe going back to what Henry was saying, I think it's a mindset. So it doesn't really, it's not specific to one industry. If there's sales and marketing in your industry, those are going to be use cases for mass adoption of AI. I think initially, I would say manufacturing, transportation, things that rely on high accuracy and things like that, that maybe generative AI cannot help. And then the time to deploy those solutions is longer. You're not going to see that. You're going to have more lead time to actually like build skill sets and find use cases, just because it does take a really long time to get those models to be reliable, and they tend to be proprietary kind of in use. So like they generate these new models. Even I would say like Elon Musk was just recently talking about new car manufacturing. Anytime that they release a new car, it requires a new sets of machinery, new sets of manufacturing techniques. And so I would say for that reason, every time that you're revamping something, it will require a long time for you to like find AI use cases and then take longer time to build. So yeah, that's my perspective, but I'd love to hear if anyone else agrees, disagrees.
Yeah, so the in between of what me and you are talking about, it's not a contrast. So with generative AI, you still need the prompt engineer. You need the person to do the inputs. Even with the outputs, it's still, for the most part, unless you're writing a blog, still needs some type of human touch. So that's where it's what's called the supervised learning, right? With the AI, where it kind of needs the human behind it a little bit, like a decision tree, right? Where you input in information. As machine learning goes into deep learning, it starts to learn from the data that's ingested into it. So for the novice people, there are a lot of people on here who don't know anything about AI. I think that's a important thing for me to interject before we go over to Charity and back to Henry. People have to understand AI is first. So that's like the computer is emulating human activity. Then you have machine learning, where the system is learning from the data that's being ingested into it. And then deep learning is the third set, where that's where it's almost compared to a human brain, where there's like neurons in our brain. There's a neural network that connects in our brain the same way with the deep learning, and it starts to learn on its own at a higher level. So just wanted to adjust that there.
Thank you. I think that was a good explanation. Charity, do you have something to add? Just because I really want to hear from you as a career expert, what your thoughts are on the different skills that people will need to improve, basically.
Thank you, first of all, for having me. So I don't know if everyone got a chance to likely introduce themselves already, but for myself, I am someone that is a career strategist, and I help high achievers become big receivers without burnout. So primarily, I am helping people in the tech space because, as we know, the tech industry was hit hard as it related to the layoffs. So hearing the different perspectives, I'm just kind of came in when Henry was talking, and I appreciate the breakdown that we're getting from Brandon. And also I appreciate, just speaking to generative AI as well. So I do sometimes support people who are in that space. So different data scientists and machine engineers, things of that nature. Those who are also in other roles like product management. There are also people in financial services as well. So that was brought up earlier. And it's really important that in this conversation that we keep in mind, like, the expectations. There's a lot of doom and gloom of like, okay, your job is going to be replaced, that type of thing. But understanding really the timeline of really depends on the industry that someone is in their role, and also understanding, the skills that would be needed. In general, if someone's in a career transition, their goal should be to reskill and upskill. And with all the changes, not only in technology, but also the economy, globalization, these are other issues as well that are impacting the workforce. And it is a very competitive market. It's going to become more competitive as tech advances. And it is important, according to your industry, to always be willing to be committed to lifelong learning. So that is something I always encourage regardless of industry, because I do help people across different industries to upskill and be willing to reskill as well, and make sure that the skills they have are relevant for the market that they're trying to enter.
Thank you. Quentin, I don't know if you had another question.
Yeah. So this is, for the group. Some of the things that come up are the concerns about job displacement. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but in regards to job displacement due to automation, it's widespread. Everyone's like, what's going to happen to my job? How do you see AI impacting job roles and the overall employment landscape?
I can jump in there, guys, because I would ask us to take 2 steps back.
Okay.
A lot of my career I've spent on this theory of disruptive innovation, meaning anytime an emerging technology comes, sometimes with a different business model, we have disruption. And a lot of people don't like that. But look, if you go as far back as 1908, that's when Henry Ford produced the first Model T in Dearborn, Michigan, off his assembly line. And at the time, that's over 100 years ago, you can imagine the panic over what the car was going to do to modern day industry. But if you think about, in retrospect, in the rear view, think about the ripple effect of the advent of the automobile to the world. In other words, there is a multi-billion-dollar industry that just makes rubber for those tires. There's a service piece. So I think that we don't need to look far back as humans to say, okay, with these innovations, yes, there is displacement, but what's the positive ripple? And
Right.
here, look, there's terms that data cleansing. 2 years ago, that was not a job. Labeled and structuring. To Brandon's point earlier, I think we're going to have a good run of proper prompting. These are new fields that a lot of people don't know exist, but will be in big demand. And the problem, though, I see it, the urgency is that's going to change. So even with the internet, if we were doing this call in the late 90s and we're talking about this thing called the internet that may have a chance to stick around, a company would have, several quarters or years to get their head around, all right, what is it and what's our strategy? We do not have that now because this is going too quick. So that's what we just really harp on people to get educated, and then with that education, kind of make your strategy. But I don't think it's accretive to the conversation to just sit on, oh, well, this is going to screw everything up. Because again, we have enough historical marker in our rear view to say, all right, like, yes, some jobs will be taken. I mean, look, at one point in this country, the number one employed job was a gas lamp lighter. We had to go light those lamps at some time at 5:00 p.m. Obviously, nobody does that today because we have electricity. So with change and innovation comes new opportunity. And I think that's the traditional businesses need to look at that, because here's the problem. The problem or the challenge is, with this technology, you have a wave of young people that understand how to use it, and they have no history in an industry. They're just looking at margin on
Right.
the table. And so they don't have the biases of the way that it's been done, quote unquote. And so what was Airbnb, that'll be a cute story as compared to what's coming. So I think it's really incumbent upon the folks that have been around and operated traditionally to stress, to change the way they think about what does change in employment mean. And I don't need to go on too long, but I have a very passionate opinion on that.
No,
Thank you.
I mean, I think that's fair. So, go ahead, Svetlana.
I was going to say, I like that question a lot. I actually wrote, I think 2 articles. It's not very similar to what Henry was saying on my page. So for anyone's interested on sparkchange.ai, you can check them out. But it's not about job replacement. I do believe it's about job transformation. So, and I think going back to what Henry was saying, there was a wave. There's, disruptive technologies always followed by a wave of fear that like jobs are going to be displaced. Like history repeats itself, and we hear that a lot. But like if you think about like cotton gin, the speeding up of processing of cotton, followed by riots of people saying like, hey, you're replacing my jobs. But then we don't see that job existing now, right? Like you have, the railroads that were built or kind of operated more manually, you have certain tasks being automated. Again, that's followed by riots because people were afraid of their jobs being replaced. But now, again, those jobs no longer exist. You have kind of industrialization that followed by automation or robotics, again, followed by riots and lots of different kind of fears being instilled, but still, like, those jobs were eliminated, but new ones were created. And so I think that that's
Right.
kind of the key thing is that yes, while certain jobs will be replaced because this is a disruptive technology, you are looking at what are the new opportunities that are emerging. I think that's what Henry was saying. And I have some statistics that's interesting. So 60% of white collar workers say they fear their roles will become redundant or automated. But it's not about like being fearful of which parts of your job is going to be automated, but how can you augment yourself and actually elevate yourself to the next level of innovation? Like, how can you take that additional time you're getting back to do more creative work? How do you put more of that time to use? And one of the things that, if you're asking like, well, what kind of jobs will become replaced? And like, if you think about generative AI specifically, well, what can it do? It can help summarize, it can help write, it can help analyze and things like that. So just based on research and market reports, entry level jobs, surprisingly, are going to be probably the most like at risk of disruption. I'll tell you why. If you think about what the entry level roles and what their responsibilities tend to be, are about writing emails, calling people, entering data in the database. Those are the things that you could um, delegate to AI at this point, even with the technology that exists today. So um, what we will see as kind of like the transition is these entry level jobs will start to take on more responsibility. So these entry level jobs will no longer be about entering data in the database, but developing critical skills to take on tasks from middle management. So instead of you kind of having to answer the phone calls, now the chatbot can answer those phone calls. And then the person who gets the escalated phone call should be able to have some managerial decision making to help provide that next level of customer service. So we'll see that collapse of the middle management, which some of those middle management tasks will become part of what entry level workers were not supposed to do before, or maybe were not responsible for, but they'll take on more responsibilities from that middle management. And that becomes kind of, again, the new thing. So as you kind of think about like, okay, well, my job is about to be potentially automated, or maybe aspects of it, like how can I start to take on, like how do I upskill to take on roles from like the upper management? What can I do more, like critical thinking, decision making skills, emotional intelligence? Like how can I level up myself to not only meet the kind of the baseline requirements of what an entry level worker is expected to have today, but how can I actually build up my skill sets for that middle management role? Because I think the standards are being elevated.
I agree. And I think now would be a good time to go to Charity just to expand upon that with um, how do you see people adjusting the strategies that they use to stay relevant, to be able to stay within the workforce, because there are multiple generations in the workforce right now. What are some of the things that you could recommend?
So I think that the question should be refined a bit about like how the new technology, like how the workforce will adapt to the new technology so that they're able to be impactful in the workplace. So that question is a little different than what you're asking, but as far as to the earlier points, I think it kind of echoes what I was saying earlier about upskilling and reskilling. So as it was said, as far as viewing things as a job elimination, but more so as a job transformation, what that actually entails and what that actually looks like, right? So we would consider, getting stronger in the areas of creative, critical thinking and emotional intelligence, but also adaptability and adapting to the changes that are going to be inevitable at this point. And it does depend on the type of role. So not just industry, but also the level that you are at. So I'm here basically to learn from those that are here, that are experts, and they're sharing their insights about what roles in particular could be impacted and how they'll change. And I'm using that knowledge to better inform those that I'm supporting. But primarily, my whole thing is also looking at most of the people I'm supporting are in transition. So these are people who they're in a role that is likely being eliminated, or it will be changed, or they're interested in a change to go to the next level in their careers. So in that means being more creative about the job search process. It used to be acceptable just to simply, fill out applications or just post your resume online, somebody would call. And that is not the case anymore. There is more efforts into really emphasizing not just applying online, but also making those human interactions. So it would be really vital to garner and build relationships with people, because for the most part, people are still the decision makers when it comes to opportunities. So being sure that people know how to strengthen their relationship skills, and those who are in tech, a lot of times who are very high achieving, they may not necessarily be used to that process. So kind of going through that process of how do you form relationships with internal and external stakeholders to get to the next level. As far as answering your question, it really would depend on the individual's background. So the level that they're at, the industry that they're in, and where they're looking to go moving forward. That will all be indicative of what the next steps would be. So it really does depend on the individual. And I like to meet people where they're at in their process. It's very unique to each person. I have a framework that I use that does help people, but it really varies from person to person based off their skill sets. There are some people who need more support in just growing leadership skills. There are more people that they already have mastered how to brand themselves, but not necessarily how to build those relationships that will lead to better opportunities that they desire. So it really is dependent on that human to human interaction as it relates to growing in one's career.
Tiff, if I could, I really want to stress something Charity said. She's used the term upskill a lot, and Charity, I couldn't that, guys. Listen, in our lifetimes, it's high school, college, maybe if you're lucky, a little advanced degree, and then boom, you're an adult and you go work, right? And it's like, whenever Quentin retires, that's it. This is a massive leadership moment because that has to change. 47-year-old Don, who's been doing a job a certain way, has to have in his mindset, okay, I've got to now put in some time and some work to learn these new skill sets such that I can be upskilled. That's a nice sentence, but actually doing it, I think, is a bigger lift than maybe we think. And that right there, that's a massive opportunity using this new technology, which that's why I teach at a 4-year institution, because I'm constantly pushing the traditional leadership to, they should dominate that space. A, think about it, they have the alumni list, right? A state university, hundreds of thousands long. B, that's kind of what their charter is. But unfortunately, they move too slow. So someone's going to step in knowing that, hey, this is a big moment in leadership, and they're going to supply the tools to make this happen to where the user is pleased. And so I really want to echo Charity's using that word, because that's a massive opportunity going forward.
And can I also add to that there's a lot of emphasis and fear of missing out, and people saying like, oh, well, you shouldn't worry, like you should sit back and just kind of watch what's happening right now. And one thing that I'll emphasize, going back to what Henry said, that I think kind of echoes to what Charity's saying, because there is, unlike other transformative, again, technologies that we've experienced in the past, that there is pressure to adapt and change much quicker in this time around. So electricity took over 30 years to see mass adoption. Smartphones took about 20 years. ChatGPT, generative AI, took 10 months to see massive scale and adoption. So if you're kind of looking at that expansive adoption rates and how it's already, like, people are starting to feel the impact on their jobs, they're starting to feel fear of this generative technology or this transformative technology affecting their jobs, like that should be kind of like a spark for you to, like, I need to upskill, I need to reskill, I need to find opportunities to learn a technology, see how I can work and have it augment the work that I do. But I think, again, maybe unlike other technologies in the past, I do think the time is to act now. I mean, the next best better time would have been yesterday. So
Yep.
you should look at opportunities to upskill. If you're, with, in the leadership role and hoping it'll all kind of make sense, there is a learning curve with all the technologies, especially if you're looking to adopt it in the enterprise or in your business. It's so I would look at the coaches. So I coach business leaders. I think Henry looks at, works with business leaders as well to like help them adapt it into their business. If you are in, in management roles and you're looking to adapt, like look at specific courses or opportunities to get help and mentorship for how you could use this technology so you can anticipate that change, because it's not about if, I think it's when will it start to impact your industry, your vertical, your business vertical, your type of role and job. So just wanted to complement both of those points.
Definitely. No, and thank you, Svetlana, because I think that that's extremely important. And just to piggyback on that, how can businesses effectively integrate that into their operations without minimizing potential disruptions? Because there's going to be some change. There is a learning curve. People don't know what they don't know. So how can businesses effectively integrate those things? And that's for the entire group. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Please, Brandon. I'll go after you.
Yeah, so there are different things that businesses are using. Like developers have a lot of developer tools that are assisting with code. You have Microsoft Copilot, and I like to promote them, but there are a lot of tools that are going to be integrated for employees to work side by side. So you're going to be working in parallel with AI. So it's going to be up to the companies. For one, what you're going to see is an uptick with integrating AI. People tend to associate it with being negative, but you have to think AI is going to help reduce stress for employees. Why does Henry have to build out this entire PowerPoint and spend 3 hours of work when he can basically create a canvas using AI, give him 10, 15 slides for what he needs for his sales presentation that's coming up. He can go in and then modify it. So he's now taking it from step 7 opposed to taking it from step 1. This is all wasted time. You have to think about the association with AI being used to reduce stress for employees, because most of these companies, they don't want to be in the headlines for layoffs. The way that they do is it's just not a good thing for business. It's great for their shareholders, but it's not great for PR. It's not great for being featured as one of the best places to work. Those things are still important to companies, right? Revenue is obviously first to them because it's really about greed and money. Like revenue drives everything, but they're going to have to spend most of their time grabbing the tools, utilizing the things, the software for their employees to integrate into their daily work.
So I'll maybe add to that. So AI organizations should not be adopting artificial intelligence just for the sake of the technology, just because it's a shiny new object that everyone's adopting, and so they're trying to jump the bandwagon and adopt it into their business. So with that said, I think one of the key things that organizations need to consider doing is evaluating their business objectives for the year, five-year kind of time frame, and see how AI could help take that to the next level. So how can AI help innovate business models and then improve efficiencies in the business by kind of rethinking their operating models. So with that said, I think AI has to be part of the overall organizational strategy. And so with AI strategies, typically those get communicated across the organization, so people know that, hey, we have an initiative to automate 30% of our business processes because that we experience a lot of inefficiencies, or we're kind of revamping some of our cash cow type of products with trying to add more value, or we're kind of rethinking some of the opportunities within our business that we've shelved for the past because we thought that they were impossible. Now we're kind of reevaluating them now that AI is on the scene. So if it's truly ingrained in your organizational strategy, that gets communicated. And I think the key here is in preparing the workforce for AI is over communicating. So if you really want your workforce to be working towards those strategies, towards those objectives and goals, it should kind of go all the way to each individual contributor in the form of IPOs, like individual performance objectives. So everyone's working towards that same mission, and they know how their role is contributing to those strategic initiatives across the organization. So the key here is that understanding how each individual member of that organization is contributing to those goals, and it prepares them mentally. Okay, well, we have an automation task to like streamline coding. Oh goodness, I should probably learn GitHub Copilot and start working on it. And I can see how I can actually use that to my advantage. And then in my free time, what can I do more of? So being aware of this comes down to the workforce, and then taking responsibility that like, hey, I understand how my role is impacted, but there's also an equal, I want to say, responsibility on the leadership to communicate, over communicate, and then communicate again, and then make sure that these initiatives are not silos within the organization, that it is community across the organization, so everyone's kind of on the same page. I think that's the best way of getting the workforce ready and aware of some of these disruptions, potential disruptions.
Yeah, I think I love to simplify these things, guys, because we have a lot of folks who, I think it was Tiffany might said, like, they don't know what they don't know. So both of what Brandon and Lana said was really, really good. Let me put it to it. Let me pull the ace out of the deck and put it on the table. Start with this. If you're running your own business, what does your customer want? What is their expectation? Because they should always be the front of your decision-making line, right? Meaning, let's go back to my bank example. If Brandon and I have a bank and we're a year behind in offering mobile banking, we are not serving our customer. That is a technological innovation that we either missed or we're late on. So if you put your customer in the lens of decision making, it takes the emotion out of it. And it's like, look, this is a competitive game now, because that customer only has so long that they're going to stay with you. If you have a slowdown or a lag in what you offer, look, there's brand equity, but it only goes so far. And I think if you put that in front of your decision making, and I'm not saying they're always right, I'm just saying your ability to serve that person more effectively, that's it. That's the full kind of, again, that's the ace in the deck to throw on the table. The board gets that, your employees get that, your leaders get that. So that's another good way to look at it.
Thank you. So I have another question here. There's different biases and ethics that are things that we should all consider within AI development. How do you see organizations addressing those biases and ensuring fairness in AI-powered systems used throughout the workplace?
I think, Charity, if it's okay, you don't mind. I think the biases are really coming from the programmers, which are from one particular demographic.
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me? There's a delay on there. I heard something. I'm sorry.
I can hear.
No, go ahead, Charity. I don't know if you guys are hearing her delay, but
yeah,
I'm sorry. So that question wasn't that that was for the panel, correct?
Yes.
So I'm interested in. Hello? I'm sorry.
We can hear you.
All can hear me.
Yes.
So I wanted to hear the response from the panelists before sharing my thoughts.
Okay. Yeah.
On that
particular
question.
Yeah. So the bias that's being implemented into what they call machine learning models. So for those who don't know what machine learning is, there are people who sit at the computer and they're feeding the machine learning model. So just imagine a system where you're giving it data to train it. So for instance, if you've ever been on a website and it asks you, like there's a picture and it says, which one is the fire extinguisher? And then you choose in that picture where the fire extinguisher is, you're training that imaging model to tell their model, this is a fire extinguisher. That's what Google has been using for that, right? So that's a machine learning model. When it comes to biases if you have 12 Caucasian people feeding a machine learning model and you go into a prompt on Playground or one of these other tools and you type in, give me a picture of a developer, and you hit generate and you wait 37 seconds and such, and then it creates this image, what are you going to see? You're going to see probably a Caucasian man sitting at a computer as a developer. That's bias, right? So the fix of what I believe that will remove biases is there has to be some type of commission put together, some type of organization where you have people from various backgrounds, different ethnicities that are all feeding this one master machine learning model without the biases, right? So it comes from someone who's Asian, African American, these different people, they're feeding it from different backgrounds and then giving it information. That way you get different outputs when you put in your prompts to say, give me a picture of a developer, right? Why can't it be someone who is a African American woman when you type in developer, right? That's where the biases come from. So there, if we are able to, as a society or as an organization, or there's a company that's going to exist, we come together, get that information, and then we agree upon it more as a collective. And then that'll help get a better, more efficient, non-biased machine learning model. So in machine learning models, they have what's called weights. So for instance, if there were some type of vote, or if you wanted to get advice from a millionaire, you're more likely going to take that advice from Mark Cuban opposed to John from down the street. That's just naturally, right? Like you're like, hey, I want to take the dinner with Jay-Z, right? You're going to have the dinner with Jay-Z or talk to Mark Cuban first because they have more weight, right? So weights in a machine learning model means the information that controls more of the output is in that particular weight. So we need a more balanced weight in the machine learning models to give the non-biased outputs.
So I think, and maybe touching on and maybe going back and a level deeper to what I think Brandon was saying is it comes down to data, honestly. So I think if whatever you're putting into any AI technique approach, generative AI, whatever body or technological approach you actually use to build up the AI system, it comes down to what data you're actually putting into it. So there are techniques to make sure that you're developing AI systems responsibly. I mean, the field is called responsible AI, and that ensures that you're building these solutions in ethical and legal ways. There are also regulations to ensure that, like GDPR in Europe, and then there's a few other acts within the United States that also mandate for you to explain your outputs, explain how the AI system came up with those recommendations or ideas. But it comes down to data. So there are use cases or just fields where the type of data you're collecting is collected more by a certain demographic. Maybe it's based on location. Maybe it's based on something else. I don't know, Finland, for example, if you're collecting all of your data out of Finland, and then you're trying to use that model based on data in Finland and apply it to United States, we know that probably United States is a much more diverse country than Finland. So whatever data sets you're using has to be representative of your target use case. And so I think that's one consideration. But then two, there are, again, techniques the data scientists, your data engineers would be able to actually apply to understand the data that you're actually putting into this model, evaluate it. Again, they're working with that data to standardize it in order to put it into the machine learning, or any of the AI systems. So there are evaluation techniques to address bias and ensure fairness of your AI systems before you actually train those models on that particular data. But it comes down to what data are you using? Is it representative of your use case and the population where you're applying it to? And again, just applying and then following your due diligence of applying responsible AI techniques to ensure you're building the right thing.
Correct. And the other thing too is the transparency layer, right? There isn't a transparency layer on what's actually happening behind the scenes. And I think that's where the integration of blockchain technology in terms of tracking sourcing of where these things are coming from, for those who don't know, blockchain is just a public ledger where you can see information. So as information is maybe input into a machine learning model, the general public can go to a one-stop shop. They can see the data, where it's coming from, and then see how it was trained, and then they can value they can basically make their analysis on that particular output. So I do see that going to be in the implementation of machine learning models within the next 2 to 5 years.
I'm gonna let Charity respond on that one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate all the perspectives, because when I actually made a post on my LinkedIn about this event, that was something that did come up as a concern. It wasn't just the kind of like, what's going to happen to my job, but also there was concern around bias. And there is and a peer of mine who she has an associate that is creating an initiative that actually does support having more diverse influence with, in particular, generative AI, so that the inputs are coming from those who come from diverse backgrounds. And I do think it is important that, obviously, if we're getting data, that it come from a more, that is more inclusive and comes from a community of people that is representative of the information that people are seeking, so that it's not just like, this one size fit all. Because I think I have put in before, I might have put in something about like women leaders who have books on leadership, and the list that was generated was primarily male, even with me making the statement over and over.
You're breaking up a little bit on us, Charity.
Oh, I think she got it. Well, before we only
Hello,
have
are
about
you
10
able to hear me
left.
now?
Yes, we hear you. We only have about 10 minutes left, so I did want to get one last question in, and we may be able to
Okay.
get in another one.
I'll
But
just
money. Go ahead.
It's a delay, Tiff, on her.
Oh.
So
I'll give her a second.
Okay. Are you? So I can go. I just will recap really quickly. What I was saying is that that is something that came up when I made a post about the event for today. Is not just this fear around, is the job, are the jobs going to be available, but also on the bias or whatever that is within the generative AI. So I have a peer of mine that is working on an initiative around changing that, so there are more diverse voices that are included. So when the inputs are coming out, it is, representative of a diverse community. So I was just sharing that, and I hope you all are able to hear my response.
Okay,
thanks.
So really quickly,
Thank you.
that Charity also. How will AI affect income distribution and socioeconomic inequality? Just because obviously money does talk. Do you all think that that's going to exacerbate the existing disparities, or will it provide opportunities for inclusivity?
That's a big question. I think, again, it all stems back to the individual's ability to get educated on what this is, and then quickly step in and kind of make their own kind of thesis as it relates to their professional and sometimes personal lives. I think that, again, because I think in my mind, it's the greatest disruptor of our time, that means there's going to be big winners and big losers. And I think some components of the folks who are going to lose will be the ones that are late, that don't take it upon themselves to get their own level of education such that they can make their own thesis and their own take, if you will. And I think it's also like it lends itself to trying things, and they're not all going to work. This idea that it's going to do everything for us, it's just not true. But the reps of stepping into new things, I mean, gosh, in the last 2 months, we've seen Sora come out with their speech to video capability. Udio AI is a music maker that would blow your mind, and that's as bad as it's ever going to be. So, I think to Lana's comment a few minutes ago, it's like yesterday was the best time to get in. Today's the second best. because that then kind of sets the table for you have agency in your own way that you view this, and I think it's also our ability to kind of do that as individuals is getting better by the day, and so that gives me a great hope for optimism. I will say this on the corporate side, Tiff. So we have four companies that are now valued in the stock market over $1 trillion, which in the history of the world, we've never had that. It's a very recent phenomenon. What that means to me is the following. Those four, and maybe more on the way, can buy basically anyone they want. So I think, and this is why we work for small to medium-sized businesses, it's more incumbent now than ever to sit and think about what data do you ask for from your customers, and then what do you do with it? Because if you don't have a cogent strategy around that, look, it only took the guy out of Seattle, Amazon, so long to send us books 30 years ago, and we liked it, right? But he was not a traditional bookseller because he had data and he had logic, right? And they had the ability to operationalize that. So that's a big topic for another day. But I think that's the biggest determiner of, if you want to talk socioeconomics, of small to medium-sized businesses being able to stay relevant. That's going to be a problem coming soon. So that's my take on it.
And I think maybe just to complement what Henry is saying, so data is huge and you should be collecting it, because I think data fuels AI. So if you're not collecting it, then it's going to be hard to build some, I want to say, custom models to your business if you don't have data. Yes, you can purchase outside data. There's commercially available data sets. They're not going to be useful to you. There's, use cases and examples of companies that, they keep some data, but they don't keep everything. And then only to find out when they're starting to build business, oh, actually, like those data sets that we threw out would have been so useful to apply it here. But also, I think that there's like, just going back to data, there's a lot of use cases where you're even combining data sets in very unique ways. I think there's been some studies, don't quote me on this, but where they use Twitter feeds to study sentiment to be able to predict certain health outcomes, based on what people wrote in their tweets. So again, there's just so much available. And if you're not collecting data now, find ways to do it, whether it's your online system, your kind of vended solutions that you're kind of utilizing on it. Because data is gold, I think, in the age of AI. And kind of what Henry was saying is, how do you actually build, I want to say, like a defensible moat for your business, whether you're a small business, medium, or corporation. The reason why the corporations are winning and they're able to accelerate, because they have two things. They have data and they have a budget to actually put that data to use. And so you at least need to get started on the data piece, because as time goes on, technology costs goes down, and we're already seeing that in the year with large language models. The cost is starting to go down. So the one thing that you can do and make actionable right now is to start collecting data, or figuring out ways that you could make data work for your business.
Thank you. Brandon, did you have something to add on that? I'm not sure, or Charity?
No, I don't, they've summed it up between them two, for sure. Yeah, I don't have any comments on it. I totally agree.
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know we're down to the last 2 minutes, but I have a question kind of for everyone to answer, as brief as possible if you can. But if everyone can just give an example of how they feel maybe AI has impacted their day-to-day or something in the workplace. I'll go first. I know for our business, I'm not the world's most creative person. I've used it to help create small marketing campaigns and things like that. I'm just curious how all of you may have implemented some of this into your day-to-day.
I'll give you a quick one. It's 15 seconds. Any meeting I have, Fireflies, Fred is there. That's simply a kind of an AI assistant. It summarizes by the voices. There's otters in that world. There's a lot of these. Guys, look, we've all had things in a meeting where you're like, gosh, I don't remember what Lana said. Now that's over, because I have these notes summarily
you can go right back
sent
to
me
them
in seconds. Yeah. Exactly. And so I think everyone should do that tomorrow.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to teach me how to do it, but I'll do it.
30 seconds.
Yeah. For me, with me running an artificial intelligence company, that is what my day to day is. So, our mission starting the company, we got going in about 2018, 2019. So this is way before AI was cool. It was a buzzword and everyone was slapping it on their company. Our mission was to set out to keep humans at work without actually having to do work at all, right? Like everyone is afraid that AI is going to take our jobs, but we at Eighth feel when the robot takes your job, you actually get paid from the ones that you control. So we're starting with software and digital bots and then going into hardware. So we're building out this network. We have about 14,000 tools in our decentralized network. That's going to allow people to keep their own company brand. And then we also build our own native tools, our own chatbot and workflow systems. So we want to democratize it for the people who are listening, which is the core demographic of the people that we're talking to right now who have absolutely no idea how AI works outside of GPT, Alexa, and Siri.
So I have have a full-time role as well. So I work for a big organization, and I think you see that with enterprises, they're adopting either their Microsoft or a Google customer. So if they're using the Workbench, they're probably are adopting Duet, which is an AI system. If they're in Microsoft, they're using Copilot. So and now that's becoming more and more ingrained into everything that you do. So we do use such tools, and so everything that I do, I see AI being like suggesting to automate my email writing for me. Like, do you want me to craft a response for you for this email, or do you want me to summarize like, the messages for this day, or are there any insights that you're looking for? And now that's integrated into my like work computer. So any system that I access has AI kind of part of that journey. But even smaller companies, I mean, ChatGPT is a great tool that smaller companies and medium-sized companies are implementing. Enterprise ChatGPT is another one that you're kind of starting to see. So I think there's an AI system that I feel like is starting to impact, and we're seeing that deployed across companies of different sizes. But I think the key here is that, and I think the differentiator for mass adoption is going to be things that are going to be embedded or integrated really well into your workflow. And those are the tools that will tend to have higher adoption if people don't have to go out of their workflows to access. And so I think that's why some of those tools that I've just mentioned have been so successful in adoption that people are finding a lot of use for them.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want mine, but
Yes,
I'll
and
add real
it
quick.
is. I hope you all can hear me. I was just sharing
ma'am, we
that
can.
I do. Thank you so much. I do use it, and I am actually creative, but it does help with the work that I do. So when I'm assessing people's skills and they want to transition into a new opportunity, and also I am working with tech professionals, so sometimes that does include AI professionals as well. So I'm able to learn from them really many different things, but we're kind of helping each other. So I support people in developing self-leadership skills. And in that, I also create content on a daily basis on LinkedIn. So I'm not necessarily, I kind of have my own ideas, but it helps to definitely organize my thoughts in a way that can be disseminated across a long time period. So it is helpful in that way. And then also more practically, just basic things of like assessing people's skills, using their branding information. So rather their resume, things of that nature. It can help me to assess really quickly their skill sets. And it can also help with interviewing and negotiating as well.
I like that. And just to piggyback on what Charity said, I also create content. And obviously, I can't think for myself, but AI does help me do that a little bit quicker by having the base or foundation idea and trying to expand upon that. And I feel like AI is actually helping me learn how to use AI because it's only as smart as what you put into it. If you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And that's just been very helpful to expedite some things that I do on the daily basis.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
I highly encourage people out there listening to utilize other tools. The last thing that we need is the same 4 or 5 companies controlling everything. I have a lot of conversations and panels with a lot of small businesses. Henry, he's in small to medium-sized business field as well with AI. So like that's a really, really key component is decentralization and a key piece. Like there's going to be some ways for us to work together. So I encourage everyone to start collaborating side by side. In that budget that you talked about with all the revenue, they're going to be buying up a lot of small companies. Companies need to keep control of their company and not hand it off to these particular big companies because they have that data on us, and data is the new oil.
Agree.
I agree. Well, we're obviously out of time right now. Thank you guys for your insight, input, and you answered a lot of things that I definitely could not answer myself. We're stronger together, so I appreciate it. I'm ready for the next one already. So thank you.
Thanks
Have a
for
good
having
rest
me.
of your day, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
We greatly
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
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 Take care.